yard sale find. I think it was $5 or $6. I think it's about 4.5 points per inch. And I believe it's a Diston. I don't think that'll show up though. But once we get that cleaned up, and it's got the nice thumb grip handle for two-handed sawing, overhand. It's in pretty good shape. It's got some sanding marks on it. We're going to make it into a user, because I needed a more aggressive rip saw. That worked out pretty easy. Exact reason why I did this project. I needed a lightweight hammer. I'll just punch those out. So the blade looks pretty straight. No real big kinks or anything in it. That's a good sign. But like I said, there's some sand scratching in there from something sanding it before. One of my favorite methods of removing rust, WD-40 and a block with some sandpaper. I'm going to start off with some 220 wet and dry to get the majority of it off. And we'll just wet sand it. Then we'll work it up through the grits. Just a few minutes work, I can see a little bit of an etch coming in here. Philadelphia. And there's some script writing here. Henry Diston at the bottom. Diston and Son. Well, seeing as we do have an etch on there, we're going to turn to chemistry. And Permatex Rust Dissolver Gel. And we're just going to work some of that in. Well, this is a pretty old bottle of this stuff, so I don't know if it'll work or not. Well, it's turned everything kind of blackish, so maybe it's still okay. Oh, about 5-10 minutes aside. Some water to neutralize it, and a red Scotch-Brite pad. Well, it's possible we've lost some of the etch on it. So maybe the acid wasn't such a good idea. Not such a big deal in the long run. It's meant to use, not as a collector's item. But we'll take some 400 grit. Well, maybe a little overkill, but I've cleaned her up to about 600 grit with the sandpaper. I'm going to clean some of the residue off with some buffing compound, and I'm just going to get the rest of the stuff off with naphtha. Naphtha is a good cleaner. It's finish safe for most things. And I've said it before, naphtha is just lighter fluid. Camp stove fuel, Coleman fuel. Did I say lighter fluid? White gas. It's all naphtha. So if you buy it in the big jar like this, or the big can like this, it's a lot cheaper. A lot cheaper. And it's a pretty good cleaner. And to protect it from further rust, just clear paste wax. This is True Wax, probably the same as Johnson's paste wax, and I've melted that down and added about 15-25% of 3-in-1 oil, and it makes a really good rust preventative, and it also helps it glide through the wood nicely. I'll just give it a good coat of wax to stop the rust. So I really can't get a good picture of it, but you can make it out there. You can see the piece of the scale right there, and the D-8 there, and then the script over here, Henry Diston right there. So I'm pretty convinced that that's the 1910 logo. And then right here it says Philadelphia, USA. So I'm pretty convinced, according to the Distonian Institute, that that is a 1910. It's very difficult to get, very faint. I suppose I could blue it and try to enhance it, but I don't know if I'm into that much work on it. But it's just a matter of interest. This is my saw vise. This is a pre-YouTube day build. And I just made it out of a couple of wing extensions from a table and a couple of pieces of maple. Judging by this, it's a little bit lower on the ends and in the middle, which means it's slightly breasted, which is fine. It can go this way, as long as it's not scooped out in the middle. Now it's time to make some horrible noise. I'm going to start out with just an axe file and joint all the teeth. What size file to use? Well, when I take a file and stick it in there, do I have you in the picture? The tooth should go no higher than half the file, because when I turn it, I still want half the file. Now it's taking a little bit more on this side. And this is a yard sale file, so and you can also see I've got an 8-degree slope on that, which is the amount the front of the tooth will tilt back toward the handle, which is pretty relaxed for a rip saw, but it makes it easier to saw and it's a little bit less aggressive. I don't know if this shows up here. You can see I got a big shiner there and very little there. So I got to take more off of this, work more on that tooth on both sides of it than I do on this tooth. So we're going to make a heck of a noise. We're going to keep our little top of our handle level. And this is just a yard sale file too. Don't even know where I got it from. I can tell that this one's flat and this one's flat, so I got to work on this gullet more than the next gullet. And it's going to take some work. I'll get about half of it down on this side, and half of it on the other side. So they're certainly not perfectly even, but this is your rake angle, and you can see this is forward from this, and that's tilted back that way by about 8 degrees. Now for an experienced saw user, they might want it at 5 degrees or even at 0 degrees, which would be really aggressive. This rake angle makes it a little bit easier to cut at an 8-degree rake angle. This angle right here. So now we have to set the teeth. And I've got an old Solmax, again another yard sale find, and it's got numbers on it in here. And they go from 4 to 12, I believe. I got mine set at 6. I don't like a huge amount of set. You can always set more in, but it's hard to take it out. So I'm looking at the second tooth goes away from me. So I want to go to that second tooth and give her a squeeze. And that looks like a lot of set to me. So I'm going to back that off just a little bit. And let's bring it down to about about 7.5. Does that look like a heck of a lot of set? And that looks better, and I'm setting them going the same direction they were set before. Every second tooth. So as you can see, this thing has a little plunger in it. And when I push it, the little plunger comes out and pushes the tooth over against that anvil. So one side goes this way, and then I'll flip it around and flip the other side that way. And that makes me a little bit wider of a curve. Remember, the wider the curve, the harder it is to cut because you're removing more wood. So it's a balancing act. You want to have enough room for the saw plate so it's not binding up, but you don't want to be killing yourself while you're sawing either. You can see the little plunger. A bit of dirt in there maybe. It just pushes that edge over. I'm just going to go over and give them a last bit of touch up. Ooh, I'm backwards there. I'm going to put my handle in that way. Well, there's lots of flat surface on the handle, so we're going to start with that with some 120 grit. Using whatever means necessary to get rid of that film finish. Okay, a little bit of sanding got that horrible finish off, and we're going to put a real finish on there. Yeah, you may be asking what I got against surface finishes like lacquer and polyurethane and that, and really I have nothing against them, but they do not belong on a tool handle. Your hand has to be in contact with this thing, and they're hard on your hands. Which may lead to the question is, well, why do manufacturers put it on? And axe handles, shovel handles, whatever, they all put a lacquer finish of some sort on there. Some sort of film finish, and the simple reason is so it looks good on the shelf. You got a whole bunch of people handling it through manufacturing and transportation, and on the shelf customers come and touching them. Clean handles sell better, so they put a film finish on it. Still doesn't make it nice on your hands, so Put a nice oil finish on there. And your hands will thank you for it. I've learned that a long time ago. And if you don't believe me, just try it. Why do you think those old wooden hammer handles that your daddy's always felt so good in the hand? The finish was all worn off of them. Same with the old shovels and the old axe. Once the finish wore off of them, they felt a lot better in your hands. So get rid of your film finish on your tool handles. Put like a nice oil finish on there. Doesn't even have to be a good job, just get rid of the film finish. It's hard on your hands. And I mean, the looks are great too. Well, we might as well take the brass bits and clean them up on the brass brush. Little finishing wax. Well, for 100 years old, 100 years old plus, I think she looks pretty nice. The other side of the blade didn't come out all that great, but the question is, how does it function? Great, I had the camera on when I thought it was off and off when I thought it was on. I guess we do it again. Okay, record light is flashing this time. Well, that's 2 1/4 inches of maple. And yeah, I missed a little bit there. More technique than anything probably. The saw seems to work good. Might be an operator error happening there. 100-year-old Diston D-8 ripsaw. Ready to live for another 100 years.